Hey everybody, again, we're going to be starting in just a few minutes here. I want to clarify, I see some comments coming in about right channel audio only. I believe that is only for our little bump video there. We are going to try and troubleshoot that and have that fixed for tomorrow. You should be hearing left and right for just the normal audio for the rest of the show today. And if it persists, please let us know and we will do some more troubleshooting. So apologies for that. Now that we got that out of the way, we are really excited today because we are going to be talking about network infrastructure and how you can best set up your network. Before we get into our show with Laurent, I do want to just remind everyone, if you are not watching on Crowdcast, please go to ndinovember.com and register at ndinovember.com. That will give you access to all of our shows, even the shows that we did last week. That will give you access to our shows that we're doing next week. And that will also give you a chance to win some of the prizes that we will be announcing. We'll be announcing a prize at the end of the show today. So that is very exciting. And we will be doing more shows tomorrow and into next week. But to start off for today, oh, I'm at the bottom of my slide deck. I am so sorry, everyone. Today we are starting off with a pre-recording with Laurent from Netgear. He's going to be doing a huge demo on their Engage software, which is really exciting. I know a lot of the conversation yesterday was questions about how to set up your network, and we go into this in this pre-record. I do want to preface that it is a pre-record because Laurent lives in Paris, so time zones was a little bit of an issue. But stick around because after this pre-record section, Gary will be doing a live interview and Q&A with Gus from Netgear, taking some of your questions. So please make sure to stick around for that. And we'll see you in about a half an hour. Thanks.
NDI November. This year, we're doing content all November. You're going to be seeing dealer and user stories, product spotlights, interviews with vendors and NDI dignitaries, of which I consider this to be one of the shows. Although Laurent, who's going to be on the show today, represents Netgear. He really represents one of the key people in what's pushed NDI forward over the years, mainly because of these AVI over AP switches, the 4250 and the 4350. You know, I like to tell the story each year, Laurent, so I'm going to tell it anyway. And that is, you know, when I first heard about NDI, we first got into it, the number one thing I brought to Dr. Cross's attention was we need certified and optimized switches for NDI. It's not a problem that the switches people have aren't powerful enough. It was quite the opposite. Either a switch that was too light, they couldn't handle it, or too powerful, a switch that required so much IT to configure it that you had to be an expert or, you know, to get NDI working right. What you guys did is came up with these profiles that optimize units. It was very funny because our kickoff speaker was Dr. NDI, and he mentioned that the two of you worked very closely in developing those original profiles. So if you could talk about those early days of NDI profiles to start the show, I'd really love that.
Oh, well, thank you. So, you know, very glad to be here for the NDI November one more time. Thank you for your support, the video guys. You're awesome. So I can tell you, it all started in tears and pain. So in the old years before the pandemic, we got a lot of customers trying to do NDI on our switches because we were doing already SDVoE and Crestron and more standard video over IP, you know? But NDI was quite new. NDI 4 was very demanding, huge burst, multiple TCP, a lot of tiers. So this is why we actually knocked the door at NDI. So back in the days, it was called New Tech, and I met in the early days the doctor, you know, Roberto Musso.
Yeah.
And with the doctor, we went to a diagnostic, and we worked for like 2 years. And after that, we were good, you know. So yes, Netgear AV was the first line that was optimized, but don't believe it's only a profile. A profile is a set of commands that we hide to provide more ease of use, you know, but in fact, we had to redo a lot of things internally into the switches to handle the burst, because
I absolutely didn't want to minimize the work you did. I just want to help people understand it a little easier. And Bill, bring that lower third up again, Adam, because I can't say that enough. Our number one tech support solution for NDI, when you first came out with the 4250 series, was get one of these switches. And our success rate was phenomenal. And people would just say, thank you so much, including the dealers we turned on to it. Everyone found it was easier, to the point now that we just call it our number one solution, because it's not a tech support solution. If you start with this switch, your tech support is extremely nominal for your network, if at all. And I also want to give you guys credit, because it's more than just the switch. You guys over at Netgear will call people, but I can call, customers can call you before, during, and after the sale to get their switch and their whole network optimized for what their NDI is going to be. And the customer support you give here in the US is just tremendous. I just got to say, kudos to Netgear, kudos to you guys, because we have been more successful in NDI because of you unleashing the technology and the knowledge and the support people to make it all happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. So I prepared a few elements so that I can show you what's new in Netgear AV and how we want to support you better and the AV community. But 10 minutes in, maybe 15 minutes max, I want to fire up this system so that you tell me what you want to configure real quick. And I'm pretty sure there will be NDI in it. But let's start, because you just mentioned the great US Pro AV design team in Netgear. Yes, we have 17 system engineers around the world. The majority of them are in the US to provide support for AV design at netgear.com. And this team has carried a list of concerns over the year. And I have the festival here in front of you. Multicast is flooding everywhere, misconfiguration, VLAN tagging, the wrong ports between the lags, so crisscross spanning tree issues, not mentioning the QoS and all other configuration that are needed to run AV over IP with those codecs. And last but not the least, of course, the quality of service, so that the fragile PTP can be prioritized against other things. So these were the lessons. So quickly, in a nutshell, multicast is unicast. An NDI is a unicast at first, but it can go multicast. Of course, if you have too many receivers, you have to turn multicast on. And the big problem with multicast is that the IGMP protocol is deficient. So we re-engineered it for AV over IP. We call it IGMP Plus. As you can see here, the lift switch 1 and 2, you have a gate, and the gate is closed. So the multicast is not flooding until a little guy on the right-hand side, RX4, has subscribed, sent a join, and then we let the multicast go. So this is how we solved those very bad multicasting issues and allowed for transition to AV over IP.
So rather than flooding the network with all this video stuff, you require kind of like a handshake of two devices to say, I want this stuff, I'll take this stuff, and that's all they get. So the whole network doesn't get overwhelmed.
Of course, but independently from the IGMP Plus, without this technology, you see the TX1, TX2 can be two cameras of yours, on the left. You can see TX4, two other cameras on the right. Without the IGMP Plus, all that traffic would actually converge and flood to the center, the network. So the trunking was another big concern. Misconfiguration is your enemy, the worst enemy for AV over IP. So when you have plenty of VLANs for audio, video control, misconfiguring the uplinks was a hell. So we developed that automation. The auto trunk is actually trunking the uplinks for you. And we also have invented this other automation technology called auto lag, which this time removes the need for configuring trunks, ether channel, link aggregation. So the switches, they know, and you can put as many links as you want between them to get more bandwidth, and everything is automatic. So just those three things kind of fixed millions, I mean it, of field issues over the years. With NDI, the quality of service is built in, so between the endpoints, the send and the receive, you have the timing, you have the synchronization. But as soon as you mix and match NDI with Dante, with AES67, with QSys, then you can kill those PTP packets because they don't play fair between them.
Yeah.
So over the years, we also have invented a global universal QoS that lets all of us live in harmony. So NDI has been one of our first ventures. I told you before the pandemic. Since then, Netgear went to the other big alliances. And, we said we don't want to standardize you so that you become IT. We offered the exact opposite. We tried to standardize the IT on the AV side of things.
Yep.
So quickly now, I don't even have all the logos, but you mentioned NDI. NDI, you have dozens and dozens of great manufacturers that went NDI. It's not only the NDI certification, this is also the certification we are doing with all these manufacturers one by one, so that we can make sure that we can interrupt with the right profile with their equipment. So to date, Netgear has more than 320 of those certifications. So let's quickly now go to the demo together, Gary, because
Awesome.
as you can imagine, having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of configuration files, even for you, right? It's not sustainable. So we have come with the 4250s. That was the first time with the Navy user interface, and
Yep.
all these files are packed so that for NDI, now you can actually just say, well, I want to do NDI 4 and just tell the switch to do so, or you want to do NDI 5 or 6, and you can mix and match Dante QSys and AES67 together. All right. So I am going now to bring up the Engage controller because the EV user interface is available out of the box on any AV line switch, right? 4250, 4350, 4500s, 4300s. But if you have more than one switch because you have a more ambitious installation, then we now leverage what we call the Engage controller. All right. So
Nice.
what is it? Well, this is an application. You can get it for free. It's totally free of charge. Netgear.com/engage. And the 2.0 is brand new. It's actually 1 week old. Okay, so it's live, it's in production. Not only we now can do, of course, the AV switchers, but we can onboard a router, the Netgear PR460X, which is multi-gig, 10 gig. So it's a nice router. And we can onboard the Wi-Fi 7 access points so that you have a single pane of glass. You can administer, you can configure, and you can run AV over IP across the entire network. And the Wi-Fi is good for
Laurent, this is wonderful because I believe that this was one of my requests last year when I had you on one of our shows. So way to go. This is phenomenal.
All right. So this is the topology. If I don't know if you can see it on my back, I have this rack and I have 3 access points connected. So Gary, what do you want to configure with me today?
Well, let's add some cameras.
Okay. Okay. So as you can see right now, I have my main VLAN 1. Okay. I am going to keep that VLAN 1 mainly for control so that I keep it simple. All the ports are in the VLAN 1. All right. So let's do one VLAN together really quick. Let's say those cameras are NDI 5 and NDI 6.
Perfect.
Okay. We're selecting this profile. This is Gary cameras. Okay.
Nice.
And we are going to call it our VLAN 10. Okay. And because you're an optimistic person like me, let's go green. All right. So we are just asking for the creation of Gary's cameras as a profile VLAN 10 using NDI 5 and 6. Do we want to do Wi-Fi on that network? Is that something you want to do?
Now that we can, I do, because I have a Bird Dog camera now available that's a Wi-Fi PTZ camera. So let's get a Bird Dog X4 going.
All right. So this is brand new. Okay. I think this is the first demo we are doing publicly because the official launch is next week at to be in Japan in Tokyo. So the wireless settings, we enable it. Either we want to create a dedicated SSID that we want to add for that VLAN 10, but you know what? I don't want to do that. I'm going to use my global site SSID, Netgear EMEA fly cases. Okay, so
Nice.
that I need a dedicated SSID, and right away we are going to add what we call a MPSK. So this is going to be for your cameras. Okay, cameras, so that the system knows that the devices that will connect using that password are going to be cameras. So maybe the password you want to give them is Gary's 123 percentage. Okay,
Great. Now
that
everyone
will
knows my password. No, just kidding.
all right. So we have provisioned that group for the cameras, and of course, if they connect, they will land in that VLAN. All
Yeah.
right. Next, we just need to say where do we want to position those camera devices, okay? So I am going to keep it simple. I have my core switch here in the middle. Let's take a 48 port switch up there. We are going to select the port 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And maybe you have plenty of cameras, so we are going to copy and paste 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 somewhere else, okay, on a few other switches throughout the network, okay? So we go fast, and this way, you can connect your cameras where you on the left hand part of a collection of those switches, the switches that turn green. All right, so I am okay with that. We click apply, we say yes, and Gary, congratulations, because now we can start working. So we have created that VLAN, but do you want to do a DHCP server real quick so that all those cameras and those Wi-Fi users or Wi-Fi cameras, do you want them to get a DHCP address? I think so,
I
right? So that
absolutely do, because I know when we
so
don't do that, we create problems.
exactly, exactly. So this is the demo effect. We just need to wait a little bit. All right. So I'm back to my planner because I did the layer 2. Let's go to layer 3. So I'm going to say, you know what? My core switch, this is really much my core. Okay. So I'm selecting core. And I will do wiring everywhere else so that, well, all
Yep.
switches, they participate into the wiring. And do you see that little wire here? I'm going to say,
Yes.
you know what? I want you I want you to do DHCP server. Okay, so the
Nice.
DHCP server will be on the router. So I think the stage is ready. I am going to apply this, and we are going to do it in the VLAN routing section really easy. So the PR460X, it will require a static IP address. Let's do a 192.168 VLAN 10, right? So 10.254, and we are going to keep it simple, class C, and all the other switches, we are going to actually say, no, we want to do DHCP client everywhere. Oh, actually, for the core, let's do a 192.168.10.1, okay?
Yep. Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and we will isolate this and make it reserved. So
Yeah.
all the other interfaces are going to get a DHCP address. So the router is doing DHCP server. How do we want the DHCP server to work? Well, uh, uh, let me see that. Oh, all right. So the DHCP server will start at 192.168.10.100 up to 192.168.10.200. Okay, and this is absolutely it. 240 minutes, maybe of least time. Now we have prepared absolutely everything. We have a uh, 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 router doing DHCP server with those parameters. The core switch has a static IP. All other switches are going to get a DHCP client IP. We can click apply and say yes. And now we are going to be able to test it. Just wait for just a little bit of time
Yep.
because we have a lot of switches to do. Yeah. I don't want to do DHCP server on the core, just on the router. Let me reapply that one more time. I probably clicked wrongly before. All right, so now we are going to test it. Success. So back to the topology. We now have a system with a NDI element,
Yeah.
VLAN on the left-hand part. So everywhere we can go now on this network where we have green ports, you can plug your NDI cameras and they will instantly belong to the VLAN 10 and get a DHCP address. See, that switch, that particular VLAN interface got a 102. It
Yep.
was the first in the line. All right. So back to my site settings, Gary, I think we can click save now. And if we have the wireless clients connecting with Gary 123 percentage, remember,
Yep.
then, or you have those cameras that are Wi-Fi, then you will land on that VLAN 10
Yep.
and participate to the VLAN. The last thing I wanted to tell you, and that's pretty cool. In this system, we can enable the MDNS gateway. It means that Bonjour and Chromecast can move from one VLAN to the other. If you have guest users in a VLAN, you still want them to Chromecast or to do a Spotify,
Yep.
across, you can. And in the VLAN management, you have this toggle here that is pretty cool. As you can see, internet access, yes or no. And this way you can make the decision easy because you have a router. Do I want to provide internet connectivity into that VLAN 10? So did you like it?
Yeah. Now let me ask you a question. Let's say I have this set up. I could say when I want to do my show that I'm using the Wi-Fi just for my show, and then when I'm done with my show, I can open it up to everyone else. Correct? Which means I'm going to make sure I get access. My cameras get all the bandwidth they need from those hotspots.
This is correct. So after that, we just need to remember a few rules. If I'm doing a show, what I want is to have the router connecting the one port connecting to the venue so that I get
Yep.
internet out of it. And then I'm doing the VLAN 10 mainly to protect my NDI cameras and my
Yep.
production software and all that from anything else, right? So this is why you want to still do VLANs.
Yep.
If you want to have control or Wi-Fi cameras, you stay in that VLAN 10. But if you want to provide internet connectivity to a wider audience, maybe to some guests, as a convenience, I would really advise you to create another VLAN 20 this time and do a dedicated SSID for it.
Put them on that. Much smarter, right? Then they're not. Then there's no chance of them interfering. This was a great demo. Thank you so much. It shows how easy this stuff is doing that. I'm really amazed. I didn't realize Engage 2.0 was just, released. So we're kind of honored to be breaking that story. That's phenomenal. So what else is there? You've got a slide, I think, that goes into all the new stuff in 2.0. You want to bring that up and just walk everyone through it?
Yeah. So in 2.0, well, first, this is the latest and greatest for the configuration, the monitoring, the management of an entire AV network. Okay, so all the profiles from NDI to SMPTE ST2110 to AVB to whatever you want to do, this is a good way because you cannot go wrong this way. Okay,
Yep.
but in addition to the latest and greatest, yes, we have added the Wi-Fi. It was a very popular demand. Of course, you have some Wi-Fi cameras in the NDI world, but you also can consider the control, right? You want
Yep.
to give tablets, touch panels. You want to have more ease, with Wi-Fi across your site. Everything is routed between the VLAN, so even if you have a dedicated control VLAN, you still can access everywhere. And the router, this is what I'm the most excited with. How many customers, Gary, did you have saying, you know what, I'm showing up in that venue, I'm given a link, an Ethernet link. How can I propagate my streaming,
Yep.
my show through that venue? Although I already have VLANs, I need to do static routes, I need to do firewall rules,
Yep.
and you never have access to the venue router, do you?
No.
It's impossible, right? So having the PR416, the toolkit, just in the rack. It's already configured for the VLAN 10, the VLAN 20 on your side. Your
Yep.
mobile crew can stay like that, and you just plug the cable from the venue in the one port, and you're done. All the NAT, all the firewall walls, all the static routes will dynamically allow what you want, which is internet in that VLAN and not in the others.
Yeah, as I told you, and we discussed before, that's had to be our number one request, that people wanted a router they can depend on, that can interface seamlessly into the Netgear Engage workflow. I would give this an 11 out of a scale of 1 to 10. You rocked it out, so way to go, an 11. And that's just fantastic stuff. And also, I want to stress that anyone who's got an AV, a 4250 Netgear, this is a free download, right? It's people can just download it starting sometime in the next week to 10 days, and it'll be available for everyone to download. It's so great, so cool.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah. So, we are a public company, so I cannot really disclose confidential information, but I'm monitoring the downloads. You go to netgear.com/engage, you take your Windows version, your Mac OS version, but it's downloaded a lot, a lot. So we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of EV installations that are now easier with the Netgear Engage. So I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
I love it. I know right now, in talking just in general, video over IP, and one of the things people love about the Netgear is you showed all the green for NDI. I could have blue for a Dante section. I could have yellow for another section. Do you think there's going to be a time in the future that you see where either Dante and NDI will play together, or you'll come up with a way that can play together a little more nicely in the future? Because I think audio for video is one of the last remaining hurdles for NDI.
Yeah, well, it's already the case, Gary. I went too fast with the demo. When I selected the NDI 5 and 6 profile with you, did you notice that the name of that profile was NDI 5/6 with Dante,
No, I couldn't
Q6?
read it. I wasn't sure what it was, too small, so I couldn't read that. So that's
So
awesome.
Dante, Q6, or AES67. So, of course, this is NDI 5 and 6.
Yep.
Do that with NDI 4, but with reliable UDP, NDI 5 and 6 in a
Can now play
reasonably
together with Dante.
exactly in a reasonably mid-large network, 10, 15 switches, 10,
Yep.
15 switches at most, we can actually successfully handle all these audio codecs in the same broadcast domain, so that you don't need two NICs in your vMix, right?
Yeah.
You your NDI and your
Yep.
Dante right straight out. Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed that, because that was going to be the number one request I was going to hear from customers after this demo was, can we get Dante on this? And that you address that through technology and through what NDI 6 has delivered. That's fantastic. It opens up the world now for what I can see as being a video over IP audio mixer integrated into a TriCaster or a vMix system, which I think people have been wanting. And just a great job. Is there any other stuff you want to head into? We're kind of running up on a half hour. I know we both have a kind of deadline today on the show.
Sure. So, I want to say a few words about two other technologies because they can be complement. Okay. We see a lot of mixed installations, TV studios, trucks, mobile crews.
Yep.
So NDI 5 and 6 is out there for good, of course. But now we are hearing a lot more often about first IPMX. So IPMX is a new technology, and we claim IPMX in any of our video profiles. This is something new, but we are going to see new devices, new equipment with IPMX. So I'm glad to tell you that Netgear is certified too. We can coexist in the same system with NDI in one VLAN and IPMX in a second VLAN. And last but not the least, I want to mention, because last year it was a project, and this year this is out there. Those mobile crews, those mobile studios might also, transition SDI away to ST2110. So the Netgear profile with the same ease of use for ST2110, the video 2059, and the audio AES67 is implemented in the SMPTE capable 4350 switches. So in our demo today, we could have done NDI in VLAN 10, okay? We could have done IPMX in VLAN 20 and ST2110 in the VLAN 30. That's what
That's so cool. We have Kairos, which is 2110. We have the Matrox Convert products with both IPMX and 2110. So now what we're doing is we're going from not just NDI, but we're really going to the new broadcast standards. We're bringing NDI along. And really, one of the things that I love about AV over IP is just the scalability and flexibility. We're not limited to the fact that someone run cables into that room for us. And I think it's going to make a lot of new creative workflows for creative people doing stuff we didn't really imagine they'd ever try to do because they always thought there were barriers. And with your switches, NDI, ST2110, those barriers are falling, not just for people like us creating a studio and a show, but all the way up to broadcast networks, for people doing, stadiums, for people doing Broadway shows, for people doing, that thing called the Sphere out in Vegas. It's all video over IP, and it's just amazing what's happening there. And I just want to thank you for being on the show. Now, I think we're going to do a follow-up show with Gus still, right, guys? And he's going to go more into the actual product lines and the different products and stuff like that. But I wanted to host this show with you today to really dig into the technical part of it. And then we'll bring on Gus afterwards to go into more of the product line. So this was fantastic. Thank you so much. And I always like giving my guests the last word. So is there anything you want to add about Netgear, NDI, whatever?
I want to thank you on behalf of the whole Netgear AV business unit. Without you, Videoguys, and your company in the US, your distribution, your support,
Yep.
Netgear AV would not be anywhere near where we are today in this community. So thank you very much for your support.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot. We're giving you the heart. Okay, guys, I just want to remind everyone, NDI November is entire month of November. We're going to have product spotlights, guests coming in talking about NDI technology, about their products. We've also got user cases, user stories, and we've got our biggest raffle ever, over $10,000 worth of great prizes. So sign up for NDINovember.com and get your prizes and get all your good stuff. And remember, on the 12th through the 14th, the more intensive shows that we're doing. And those days, you got to sign up to see them live. But all our NDI content, of course, will be on YouTube and NDINovember.com for downloading, on demand later. So, Laurent, thank you so much. Peace. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Hey, and that was a great interview with Laurent. Now I'm back live. First, I'm back live with Gus from Netgear, who's going to talk about the 4250 versus the 4350 and also hotspots, because I know during the Laurent show, a lot of people were asking about hotspots as well as the difference between those two. I also want to say that, we gave the first scoop on the Engage software. You got a demo of it live, and now today it's actually available for download. Correct, Gus?
Definitely. I wish everybody can download Engage 2.0 and enjoy all the new features. We're going to talk about it today, so I won't spoil it.
Cool. Guys, just the audio seems a little odd with him. Are you hearing it that way? Okay. So let's jump into the show. 4250 versus the 4350.
Right. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah.
Just check. Right.
We got you. So let's go on with the agenda of the model's overview, functionality, performance comparison, and then a conclusion. We're also going to cut in here a little bit on mobile hotspots too. So, Gus, you take it away. The starting point is going to be the 4250 and the 4350. So let's talk about them and who they're intended for.
Definitely. For everybody that is already familiar, Netgear has a full line of products dedicated, focused, tailored for AV applications. So AV applications can be from the small system all the way to the large deployments, multi-campuses, and everything else. For your journey to start, we recommend the M4250. This line is designed for all the AV over IP projects, but specifically tailored for the endpoints that require just 1 gigabit per second. So it is, let's say, designed to small or mid-size professional audio and video over IP applications. It has so many models. I could talk about all of them here, but we start from small units all the way to large. The focus on the M4250, it's that the switches themselves, the rack is reversible. So as we say normally on an IT a room, you would have all the ports on the front for the engineers to move them around dynamically. On an AV over IP project, is more like you set it all up, and then you just need to see the LED. So you can mount any of the M4250 with the ports in the back and the LED, just the status of the port, the speeds, and etc. on the front. We also have desktop versions of the M4250, which are silent as well. So I think that the M4250 sits in right now on my home studio here desk and could be part of anybody's rack. Once you're already in the AV over IP field, there are switches with just 8 ports and 1 or 2 uplinks, both on copper or fiber, up to large switches with, let's say, 40 ports and a lot more of bandwidth in the uplinks. The M4250 then, on its majority, is 1 gig ports. There are some models that are 2.5 or 10 gig as well, but the most of the M4250 is 1 gig ports and 10 gig uplinks. When we go to the M4350 line, then we are talking big time. You know, I think that the M4350, including the 2 latest that have 100 gig uplinks, 4 ports of those, you can have the backbone that you could wish for Christmas, so we like to say. So the M4350, in its majority, the ports are 10 gig, and the uplinks are either 40 or 25 or 100 gig uplinks. So we have them all for, let's say, core switches. All of them are interoperable, so with the same Engage, you will be able to manage your 4250s, your 4350 switches. Once they're all in the same topology, they will be interpreted, let's say, as a whole. So the 2 things that I want to highlight for the M4350 are the SMPTE 2110 compatibility. So we're talking about high bandwidth AV over IP deployments. SMPTE 2110 requires more than 1 gig. So we have that, and also redundant power suppliers that are only available on the M4350. Now, taking a ride on the Engage 2.0 features, the new feature that we now have packed into this free software is the control of your Wi-Fi access points. Gary, I just want you to allow me a little nomenclature correction here. Netgear also has mobile hotspots. These are the ones that you can chuck in the SIM cards. So those ones are not yet controlled by Engage. We do have another cloud software that controls mobile hotspots. So the right way to refer to those are wireless access points, which are our Wi-Fi antennas that once you chuck those in to your rack with the 4350, providing all the PoE and all the bandwidth necessary to power those Wi-Fi 7 access points, you can now have wired and wireless infrastructure all controlled from a single pane of glass. This one on your screen now is the first Wi-Fi access point, exactly the WBE758. So for people that are familiar with the standards, the WBE refers to the 802.11be standard, which is the Wi-Fi 7. The top one, which is the WBE758, has a lot of bandwidth. It supports up to 10 gig coming into the access point for then those 10 gig to be distributed across your venue in 3 different wireless bands. So the 2.4, the 5, and the 6 gigahertz. When we're talking about wireless now for AV over IP, so far we are recommending it, let's say, for your control aspect. But once Netgear AV has started offering wireless infrastructure that connects with AV, I'm quite sure that we'll see manufacturers and everybody else bring in more products. This one on the screen now, I like to call it the baby brother, so the junior. It is The chassis, its chassis is definitely a little bit smaller than the older brother, and it also has less bandwidth. So this one on its port, it's 2.5 gig, and it will then be able to distribute that whole thing. Every time we talk about Wi-Fi, it's worth mentioning that the standards expect, let's say, a lot from the industry, from the technology, and now we're seeing a lot of endpoints coming with Wi-Fi 7 as well. Moving on with our little presentation that I have prepared for you, and I'll welcome any question that I might be able to answer at the end. I think that we can highlight two main features for Engage 2.0 now on wireless. Think about freedom for all the crew. Anybody that is somehow controlling devices, endpoints, systems through IP can now do that using our wireless access points that can be attached to a specific VLAN that is then controlling your NDI, that is then controlling your lighting. Engage itself does not need to be tethered to a specific rack. You can have freedom for that as well. And once and for all, I think that the Wi-Fi aspect combined with another product that is now supported by Engage, which is our professional router that has two WAN capabilities. So you can have two internet service providers feeding your system for a kind of a redundancy aspect of it, if you wish. That connected to your 4350 as a core, all the way to the edges, 4250s, and some Wi-Fi antennas, Wi-Fi 7, all across your system, allowing full freedom. Well, that is the offer that Netgear AV has for everybody watching us here in all social media, and for the registrations as well. Everybody kind of getting the first-hand information on this. Next on
if
this,
if I could stop you for a second.
please
People
stop
really
me.
want to know which one's right for me. So let's say I'm a house of worship. I want to set up a TriCaster or vMix. I've got 4 or 5 PTZ cameras. I want to bring in the scripture from one laptop. I have a couple of screens that I want to run to. I'm not looking at one of the desktop units, but I'm really not big enough for a 4350 yet. So like I'm in the 4250 family, correct? I got to add up all the PoE requirements I have, what kind of ports I need. Am I going to be running something like Dante or Crestron through the same system, potentially even my lighting? So that's where I think those mid-level 4250 rack ones really fit in great. But if I'm a school that wants to have multiple classrooms all over the school and maybe connect to other schools within the district, now I've scaled up to a 4350, which is more of an enterprise solution. Have I got that correct?
You did, certainly, Gary. You're a very good student in this academy here. I think that what you said can relate to people in a trick. I'm about to share some of the tips that I give for the people that come to the training and everything else. If you start by your endpoints, so any system, particularly AV people, which we are used to determine the size of a system by its I/O. So start with the I/O, then you will end up figuring out which are the devices that need 1 gig. Most of the devices for the non-broadcast applications can work very well. There are plenty of options with high quality audio and video working within the 1 gig, which is the majority of the 4250. But then my tip is, if on the same switch, aka the same room, you will end up plugging a lot of things that will need to communicate, multi-track, all of its channels, kind of, this is the idea for the AV crowd, then you need to configure the uplinks to support all of those channels. All of our switches have a non-blocking architecture, so everything that you plug into the ports, the access ports, can navigate within the switch nicely. Whatever needs to go through the uplinks, the trunk lines back to the bone, then is when you need to think of your uplinks. The way that I suggest people, of course, when you are specifying a project, just go to our website. We have a nice filtering search engine there that will help you finding and narrowing down your choices. But if you still remember your, maybe your first math lessons in life and you remember the Roman algorithms, that is also a key to find if that device has gigabit ports, multi-gigabit ports, 10 gigabit ports, or 100 gigabit ports. So the gigabit ports, the models will always have a G for gig. The multi-gig will have an M. The 10 gig will have an X. And the 100 gig will have a letter C. So kind of just giving you a way to navigate our rather big portfolio. And definitely, if you're thinking of starting your AV system, I would say that 40 to 50 will always be handy. And you can always upscale, you can always scale this flexibly by adding, let's say down the line, another 4350 with only fiber ports. That's kind of the idea. And you can control everything from Engage. Single pane of glass.
Yeah, Engage is definitely the secret sauce that holds us all together. I love that tip. So if you could just give me that again, because I never knew that. So if it's a gigabit unit, it's going to have a G in it. If it's
G,
10
yes.
gig, it's going to have an X. If
X.
it's 50 gig, it would have an L. If it's 100 gig, it's going to have a C.
For the 50 gig, I'm so sorry, it's not an L, it's a V. I mean,
5. I got it.
Just remember, that's why I skipped it. So remember the 100C, 10X, and G for gigabit. And of course, the numbers will correlate to the number of ports that you will have. So if it's a 43, 48, or 44, 48, or 42, something, you will figure out the number of the ports. But I think that for AV people, trying to go, let's say, with the on a safe mode is think of endpoints, so IO, multiply that per 20, 30%, 50% headroom for you to be able to scale. Never go to start a project with all of your port usage up to 100%. It's not healthy. And then once you have already figured out what are the devices that will be, let's say, interconnected, that's when your uplinks will be handy. So overall, all the data that you need to send over, you will have a good indication for your uplinks. All of our switches can do automatic lag, which means link aggregation, so they can figure out that 2 or more ports are interconnected between switches, and they will then auto lag and automatically trunk themselves, avoiding other issues, broadcast storms, and stuff that you don't want to have in your system. Well,
now let's say I'm doing corporate AV, and I want to put, not only do I want AV for like my conference rooms and stuff to tie in, but I also want to build a studio where I want the studio. Now, I've heard different ways to do this. One of the things that we recommend is putting a smaller switch in the studio that then ties into the bigger AV switch, rather than trying to run everything on the studio from one really big, large switch. And especially with Engage, that works better. And your comment about headroom, I think, is so important. And I'm going to throw, I think your headroom number is too low for the video world. In the AV world, you kind of know how many rooms you have and you can figure out what your space is going to be. In the video world, when you're doing pro video, as your production grows, you start adding cameras, you start adding other sources, you start adding teleprompters, and all these things can be hooked up via NDI and the audio and stuff. So I really recommend almost 50% headroom if you can for the pro video studio type proportion of it, because you're starting by scratching the surface. As you get more and more into NDI video, I can promise you one thing: you're going to do more and more of it. The flexibility and the expandability is amazing. And what we love about the Netgear AV switches is I get stability no matter how large I grow, and it's easy to grow and add, which means you need more headroom, because if it's easy and it's stable, you're going to do it, right?
Right. So let me get back to your question. And again, I am a trainer, so my spirit, I would say my soul gravitates toward enlightening, particularly what you just said. Okay, a big switch for the studio, a big switch for the central, let's say the data center, whatever. Big is what? Speed or port quantity. So
both,
you
right.
do want a very large port quantity switch in the studio where
Yep.
a crew can come up and hook up some NDI cameras and help you. You know, the flexibility of it is definitely this. Let's say you were working with a different team that is coming. Hey, are you working with AV over IP? Yeah, check the protocols. I set up the VLANs. They can just enroll their devices into the same VLAN that you are controlling, and everything is clocked together, etc., seamlessly. But for the data center, let's say the central, the core switch on your system, the one that will definitely be handling all of these VLANs together, and probably is the one that you will be paying a little bit more for power redundancy, etc., can also be an 8-port switch, but all of them must be fiber and
Right.
very, very high speed. So let's just, every time that somebody talks about bandwidth, as much as I like the term bandwidth, I prefer speed. You
Yes.
know, if things can go faster, that's your solution. That's the main bottleneck so many times is bandwidth. So think speed. You want to go fast, you want to go big. So prepare yourself for a very high, very fast highway, right? So in the little cities, you can have your 1 gig, but then across the venue, you need fiber, you need that robustness.
No, excellent advice. You know, the little desktop ports we recommend for people who are doing portable stuff or know they're in a finite confined space where they're only using 3 or 4 cameras. They know they're not going to need the 8. If it's a studio or pro video, when I said smaller, I meant a minimum 16 port, because you're
Oh yeah.
actually right. People can be plugging in, and then, but your speed could be gig because of what everything's in there. One 10 gig uplink to the bigger switch that's running the enterprise. That's where I see the corporate. The corporate guys need a big fat switch. It's got to have other switches talk to it, plus do the main conference area. But the beauty of it is that, and I want to skip to a slide that you guys have. It's a little later slide. That is you guys offer pre-sale support, where if I am that corporate IT guy getting pushed into video, and I think I like what I heard on these shows, but I'm going to need a little bit more help to convince myself and my team to sell it to management. You guys have amazing support on a design level where people can actually contact you guys and get free support. And I think that just to me is so outstanding. Can you talk to that a little bit more? Because no one does that the way you do.
Wow, I think that you have been very generous, but there is the human aspect behind this is what really matters. We do have system engineers plugged in on a 24/7 channel, which means that there's people working on all our offices across the globe that answer to the same email that you're seeing on your screen now. proavdesign@netgear.com. I'll just tell you, challenge us. Come us with your dream project and your restricted budget. Let our system engineers work for you. If you need help, let's say creating a project to then pitch to your customer, we can help you on that as well. We have definitely the largest team of dedicated engineers serving thousands of projects every day, from the smallest to the largest. So I would say challenge us. You know, even if you have already a quote with another manufacturer, or maybe you are in doubt if you go with Netgear or any other vendor out there, let us help you figure out that the value that is packed into each of these products considers already. There's no free lunch in world, you know, so the whole price is to pay this service. Pre-sales consultancy, we help you design your project. Depending on the size of it, we can figure out sending you some sample units for you to test them first. We will definitely provide you the training that you need, not only to operate our products and serve your customers better, but also to, you know, upgrade your skill set and start working in better and larger and more profitable projects as well. So I challenge you. Email us at proavdesign@netgear.com. Tell us your dream, your budget. Let us work for you.
Cool. Now, that was really great, and I want to thank you, but I want to jump a little bit into, I know this is NDI November, but you guys are AV over IP, of which you did NDI first and better than anyone else, but there's so much more. You know, you got Dante, you know, you've got IPMX, and I just talk about the fact that if it's a standard emerging and it's video over IP, you're going to make it work in your switches. You're batting 1,000 not only from pre-sale support, but you're batting 1,000 of every time someone says, "Hey, you guys can support this." As long as the vendor who makes it or the organization that makes it is willing to work with you guys get it done.
Well, I would say kudos to the entire AV business development unit, including our vice president, including the new leadership that has come on board recently. So Netgear is a very dynamic company. I am young, I'm still 37, but I've been in this industry for as long as I remember. I am working for manufacturers for 10 years in a row now. And what I can definitely say is that if there is one company that is fast from product planning to go to market, is this, particularly when once, and I'm not bragging about it, but it's a fact. Netgear has found their niche serving exactly one industry, which maybe if you compare the AV industry with the IT industry, it is definitely smaller, but at the same time is huge. And for the people that are there, the problem, the issue that Netgear solves has become like, I cannot go back to figuring out on thousands of menus and reading forums or having to pay for a lot in terms of time and money just to figure out how to configure something that is not your main job. Your job is to make the show. Your job is to make the live.
Yep.
So I think that Netgear has a great team, great leaders that have been brave enough to go after all of these AV over IP protocols, be them the proprietary, the open standards, try to bring the synergy around this. And that is actually our biggest value. The learning curve of the Netgear team has been exponential. We are growing. We are growing in terms of reach, which is maybe better than just hiring new people. We are getting our people to do the best of the service. And it's almost 1.5 years that I'm in the company, and I've seen so much. So I'm quite a good witness of the expansion. IPMX, you guys can, keep your ears out for that. Everything that NDI is doing in terms of literally democratizing this, making it super simple and accessible by people all over the world. So I think that Netgear's partnerships have to do with this. We take on their challenge, we help them build their products to better work with ours and vice versa. And there have been some cool announcements out there. If you guys want to, do a little bit of a homework, Netgear as a company has partnered with very, very valuable players in the market recently.
That was awesome. I want to thank you for being on the show. I think that wraps
Thank
up,
you.
today's show of day 2 of NDI November. Gus, I normally give people the last word, but I think you nailed it. If there's anything else you'd like to add, the floor is yours. If not, I'm going to go on to just promoting some of the other NDI stuff that we have coming up on the schedule.
One invitation then for everybody to visit netgear.academy and get certified. We're coming up with a brand new AV over IP certification coming up by Christmas. So level 1 is going to be Christmas, level 2 a bit further in February, and level 3 maybe June. So everybody can, spend the next month there getting certified on Netgear AV. Thank
Awesome.
you, Gary. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. I want to bring this up full screen so people can see NDI November. We're in the meat of the potatoes. Yesterday we did the kickoff with Robert Musso, Dr. NDI. Today we had the guys from Netgear on. Great show. Tomorrow we have another panel of experts to discuss the future of NDI and remote production. So thank you everyone who came in. Remember, register at ndinovember.com. We're still giving away raffle prizes and gifts, over $10,000 in gifts. We're super excited about that. And now, without any further ado, I'm going to cook off, and I'm ending just in time because I think we wanted to have a 4 o'clock start. It's our guest spotlight, Austin James Smith, founder of Future Grade Technologies. He's going to tell you about some of the stuff that he did as a integrator, putting stuff in for someone. So this is Gary with NDI November. Thanks to everyone. Stick around. Still stuff. We'll be doing stuff all month long as the raffle and stuff like that. But peace. I'm out of here.